The following is a special presentation of Tony Kurre Radio. Keep your mission on your mind and your mind on your mission. This is Mission Minded with Michael Coleman.
Oh, my good friend Michael Coleman, the Heart of Alabama Food Bank, is the CEO. 35 counties of the great state of Alabama they cover up. My name is Tony Kurre. We do a show called Bite by Bite. We're going to do that after the show. This is called Mission Minded. This is a show that we talk about business situations. It was something that we actually were talking about, non-for-profits, stuff like that, Michael, and then it just kind of morphed into, because there's so many different things to talk about. It's more of a business show. We do everything but give out stock numbers is what we do around
That's
here.
Right. That's right.
And today I want to get into something very, very, and I look up to you. You're a good 30 years older than I am. So I look up. So I'm kidding. No, we're actually about the same age. You are my elder. No, but you've been, see, I was a late bloomer, right? So I didn't fall in love, get married, and have kids until I was like in my 40s. You did things a lot earlier than I. So I looked to you and
I started in junior high school.
So we're a little farther apart here. My daughter's going to be changing my diapers before I'm done changing hers. It's one of those things. So we're going through right now here on Mission Minded, we're going through graduations. And it's one of the strangest, weirdest graduation times I could ever remember. I hate to use the word because we heard it a million times during COVID. It's unprecedented. We saw it 4 years ago when we saw kids trying to graduate and couldn't even go to their own graduations because of COVID. And that same class, unfortunately, is now going up to get their diplomas. Jerry Seinfeld's about ready to talk, and all of a sudden you have a mass amount of people walking out and screaming things because of the war in Gaza. I mean, it's just a strange time we live in. And so, first of all, I want you to just talk about graduation itself. I've never had a child graduate yet. I've got one that's got a year of college under his belt. I've certainly gone through high school, and how important it is, graduation. But just talk about that, and we'll keep it on the college level for sake of any type of debate. But just talk about that aspect of it first, and your thoughts of what's your situation? What have you? How many children have you put through graduation? Go ahead.
I have two daughters. My wife and I have two daughters, and they've both been very successful in school. They've taken some different routes. I had one. My oldest one did a little school, didn't really take it super serious, just kind of goofed around a little bit, taking a few classes here and there. And then she got serious about it when she kind of recognized, hey, I want to be a teacher. I got to get serious about it. And then she went and got her master's degree. And right now she's in school because she really wants to be a librarian. And you need in Alabama, you need your EDS. That's probably the way it is in most places. And
hold on. What I've never heard of someone say they want to be a librarian. What exactly is a librarian?
Well, we know what the old one is, with the ladies having their hair pulled back in a bun with the glasses and the old lady chain on it.
Is that what we're talking about?
Mrs. Hassenpfeffer, it's just what you imagine. But no, she right now, librarians are very much into technology. Okay. So it's not just checking out books. It's heavily into assisting those kind of things. And my daughter's been in the classroom already quite a bit. She'll be turning 40 in January. We need to edit that out so she won't think I missed her birthday. No, but she's going to be doing 40. And she's been in the classroom. And I'm going to tell you, being in the classroom nowadays, with the way parents are, I was always very supportive, tried to be, of the teachers. Mm-hmm. As a matter of fact, it even caused conflict between my wife and myself because I was always, look, if the teacher's calling me with a problem, I'm believing the teacher.
Yep.
And my wife was somebody that always wanted to start with believing the child. And I'm chasing a little rabbit here, but I remember one time she talked me into going to school. She kept saying this science teacher had it in for my youngest daughter. Kept on. Finally, I said, all right, I'm just going to go talk to this guy. And, of course, when I get there, I'm like, hey, my daughter has told me these things. And he goes, well, did she tell you all of this? And I'm like, well, of course not. Because there's that proverbial other side of the equation there.
Sure.
And So I didn't fall for that trick again. I said, yes, teachers can be wrong. They can make mistakes. More times than not, if they're calling a parent, it's for a legitimate reason.
Sure.
So now that my daughter's a teacher, she tells me these stories about kids today. And what you really see is very disturbing. We just what we saw with Jerry Seinfeld and the people walking out, the intolerance that exists today for anybody whose view is different. And it's so sad because it used to be that it used to be a little bit reverse of that, because colleges were the place for free expression. It didn't matter what you said. You could say anything. And I remember the more, or at least the way it was portrayed back in the 40s, 50s, and 60s, it was, there's places of higher education. Now you got all these free, hippie, liberal thinkers, and the conservatives were like, hey, you can't say those kind of things. This is a decent society. We're going to keep it that way. And there was this pushback, and anything goes. And now it's kind of reversed, which is most people, at least most of the people that I know and am friends with, it doesn't mean that they're going to agree with your position, but I think as adults, we sit down and we politely listen to people, and we're not shut off from other ideas, but we're open to it, to at least having a discussion and treating each other with respect.
And by the way, if you missed our show last week, make sure you podcast that, because we talked about the protest for about 45 minutes. Talked about whether you hire a protester, whether you date a protester, but it really talked about what our youngsters, and there's no doubt that obviously we're all distraught, we're all angry, we're seeing mothers and children and innocent people die in a war that shouldn't be happening. We also understand that Hamas needs to be taken care of, and there are no right answers here. There's no way to surgically go in and dismantle this monster. And so I understand our youngsters. I don't think they're doing a great job trying to debate and figure out, maybe turn it into a class. By then,
so this makes graduation. Thank you and I appreciate you bringing that up, because it kept me from going down that rabbit hole again, because I tell you, it's tough to watch sometimes, but I do believe that a lot of those kids will snap out of it. They will encounter life. When reality hits you, it tends to force you to rethink. I remember when my girls would go through there, and you're releasing your girls to the care of colleges and college professors and different ideas, and you're not there to rebuff what you think is unhealthy thought. And so every child that goes off to school, you're like, okay, I'm going to set you up for success, but you don't know, who they're going to encounter, who they're going to be drawn to, what what ideas may be out there, but may work against the very values that you've taught them all your life. So to see them when they actually walk across the stage in their graduation gowns, it's a special thing, because now you realize they really are stepping into adulthood, and they've achieved something of significance, and so it's a very proud moment. I remember having, I get misty-eyed. I would be very proud, but it's another phase of life for them, and it's with each phase of life is more uncertainty and more challenges for them. And the reality is, we love our kids. We don't want them to encounter challenge after challenge after challenge. But look, that's what life is, and you and I going through all the challenges we had. That's what's helped shape us and make us at 58 years old, people of experience. Yeah, we've made a million mistakes along the way, some of them painful, very painful. But and we don't want our kids to go through that pain, but it's just the part of life that we can't shield them from all that, nor is it good, nor is it even good to try, because all that is going to help them in those phases grow up to be prepared to get their kids through it.
We've said this about a million times. We'll probably say it a million more times. Michael Coleman, by the way, Heart of Alabama Food Bank, is the CEO. This is called Mission Minded. Keep your mind, your mission in your mind. We just live in different times right now. And, our unemployment rate is historically low. You used to be really fortunate to have one job, not alone 2 or 3. Now you could probably have 6 if you wanted it. If you wanted to work 6 jobs, you can work 6 jobs. We got people that are working from home, and they're moonlighting. They're working all over the place. They're working 2 40-hour jobs, and the other place doesn't even know they have another job.
Right.
Good for you. You do your thing. But I will say this: I don't know. I only went 2 years of college before I had to move because of my business. And I can't honestly say that I was any smarter by going to college for 2 years than I would have been had I not gone at all. And I know that we used to go, you're going to college. We heard the stories. This is the first person in our family to graduate college. These are great stories. It's wonderful. And we know that you make on average $1 million more over the life of your blah, 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 blah. I understand that. We also understand that you can get out there right now and start working somewhere, probably make $90,000 in a skill position job. It may not be something that you're proud of. But I mean, hell, you can go become, I'm going through something right now where I'm 58 and I got like 3 or 4 friends of mine who are retiring. And I'm like, what? Yeah. And they're police officers, they're firefighters, they're people that put their 30 years in and they got full pensions. And now they're going to go work in a flower shop on Saturdays and Sundays and go play golf while my ass is going back to work again tomorrow morning. And I'm thinking maybe they were onto something. They worked down at their local steel union. Next thing you know, they got their 30 years in, and all of a sudden they can graduate. You did it with the military, and so
that's right. I'm thinking to myself, the blue collar is becoming the old white collar in terms of right now. White collar is more thought of as being behind a computer all day. Mm-hmm. And the blue collars are the ones that are out there making the serious dollars, that are laying the power lines, that are keeping the country going. I mean, you can make phenomenal dollars, and you don't walk away from college with it. We talked about all this on a college episode about, you could go and learn a skill. You don't have all the debt. Mm-hmm. You can get into it. But again, there's also very valuable experiences that you gain during college as well. And so the question is, what's the best fit for you financially? What's the best fit for you emotionally and mentally, where you are in your transition into adulthood? There's all these factors. And so there's not a one size fits all. There's, everybody has to evaluate what's best for them. And
certainly what job you're getting into. What kind of experience do you need? In some cases, you have to have college experience based on the diploma you're going to get and go on for the rest of your life. He's Michael Coleman. I'm Tony Kurre. This is Mission Minded. So I always think it's interesting. I never got the chance to go across the stage again because after 2 years, I'm the one that marks the some college box. I hate that, but at least there's some college that I went. I have no doubt. And it's funny because the day I called my mom and dad and said, I'm quitting my job down here in Louisville, Kentucky. I was doing radio down there. I said, I'm moving back home. I'm going to finish up at Xavier, get my degree and get into marketing. That day I got a phone call for a job opening in Birmingham radio. And next thing you know, I'm on my way and I'm moving another 300 miles away. So that's kind of and it worked out really well. And I was very, very blessed. God gave me that road. But I always think it's interesting because you have some big schools like a Duke they can hire to have a Jerry Seinfeld show up for their commencement speeches. What is there anything in a commencement? First of all, have you ever given a commencement speech? Because I'm assuming that you're a pretty big highfalutin guy, and a lot of people in this state know who you are, and a lot of the things you've given back in. I would assume that perhaps you've been asked to give a speech, maybe even.
I've done some speeches, but I've never done a commencement address, and probably. Because myself, I don't have a doctorate or at the level that, I think I could have some information that could be helpful, some general information, but no, I've never had that honor, never had that privilege, and never really think I probably will, but.
Well, now hold on, because I'm going to give you a chance to do it today.
Okay.
Because listen.
Off the cuff.
Well, yeah, because, You're one of the most well-rounded individuals from your religious and Christian beliefs to your father beliefs to being a husband of 40 years to having children. You get it, and you've spent the majority of your life giving back to the service of your Lord and Savior, which I just love. So and again, I'm putting you on the spot here because we hadn't talked about this, but if you were to give a commencement address, or you were going to get in front of a group of graduating individuals right now today, And I'm putting you on the spot again because
No, it's okay.
you haven't had weeks and weeks to sit there and write this thing out for 45 minutes. But what are some of the things that kind of bubble right up to the top of your brain? Okay, I've got a person who's getting the diploma today, and they're going to start their new life, and this is a world unlike any world we've ever lived in right now.
Yeah.
What are some of the things that you would say?
Well, it's not going to be, if you're talking to college age kids, some people want to get in there and they become so, speak in such an intellectual way. I get it. But the truth of the matter is the things that people remember and are the simple things that they can put in their pocket that they can remember that they can walk away with. So this is totally out of the blue, but I'm going to share with you my favorite story. And I just read it one time in a little newsletter. Awesome. But on the times I went and spoke to a community college. This was kind of like a commencement, I guess a little bit, but a lot of it was adult ed. They're getting their GEDs, they're getting their first associate's degree, whatever. And I kind of spoke of that. But there's been lots of times where I've told this story. It's one of my favorite stories, but it illustrates the idea that everybody's life can matter. So do we have time for me to run it through if I can do it in 5 minutes?
Absolutely. Dude, it's your show, brother. You go all you want, man.
Yeah, I love for people to put this in their pocket and share it with us because it's a great story.
Love to hear
it. So it's actually two very brief stories, but they're intertwined. So the very first one is, everybody knows Al Capone. Everybody our age remembers Al Capone, or at least, he was a gangster in Chicago, and finally get him in prison for tax fraud. Well, his bookkeeper literally, had the books. He lived in this huge mansion. He was well taken care of, but he had this son that he dearly loved. And the bookkeeper's name was Easy Eddie. And Eddie loved his son. But he knew that as long as he was with Capone doing these things, he could never set the right example. Mm-hmm. So he made a decision one day that and he said, I'm not ratting Capone out. I just want to leave this life. And he chose to do it. But he knew, because he knew where all the bodies were buried, literally, that Capone would likely have him killed. And sure enough, he was gunned down in the streets of Chicago. But he had done that, and he told his son, I'm doing this. I'm walking away from this because I want to set the right example. So he actually gave his life to a principle. Well, skip forward. It's World War II. There's this pilot. And he's getting in his squadron, he's leaving, and he gets in, he realizes his plane has not been refueled. So he lets them go out. He turns around and comes back. They're in the Pacific. And there's a Japanese squadron coming in to attack his folks. And now he's the only one there. And he zooms in and out. He's on low fuel. He's in, and he saves, I think he wipes out 5 planes by himself and ends up landing, and he's killed a year later, actually in combat, if I'm telling the story right. And the amazing thing about that pilot is that his name is William O'Hare. And the reason most people know that name is because Chicago's International Airport is named O'Hare Airport. And there's a nice display when you go there that tells the story of William O'Hare. And by the way, William O'Hare is the son of Easy Eddie.
Oh, wow. Wow. That's amazing.
So if you put those two together, and I love telling that story because you see when it clicks in people's face, here's one man who made a decision, thought he would die, took the risk. He was killed. But he loved his son so much, and he said, this is what's right. He taught him honor, and he taught him faithfulness and to do what was right. And that led to a young man being raised that he sacrificed his own life and did heroic things. And so what I want to tell people, young people, is, and it's a very simple message, if I got up there, I would be like, listen, you're going to have opportunities to choose to do good and impact the lives of others. And it's tough and it's challenging and sometimes it's thankless, but put yourself out there for the betterment of other people, and you will truly find purpose and you will truly find contentment and happiness for a lifetime. And if you're chasing these other things, if you're chasing fame, if you're chasing wealth, if you're chasing notoriety, power, all those kind of things, that will never scratch that internal itch that we have to have meaning and purpose. And that would probably be, in a short version, what I would share with them. Find out what their purpose is, make sure it's affecting the lives of others and empowering them, and then go forward and give it everything you've got. You'll never regret serving other people.
It was a great, fantastic, great story. And no, you could have just knocked it out of the ballpark right there if you were a Duke. I mean, I'd push Jerry Seinfeld off the stage and let you speak. Something that I don't think was brought up, and of course they would tell me I'm wrong. Maybe I just wasn't listening. But I don't remember hearing at my high school commencement or even during college how important it was to be happy in what you do in your life. I've heard, if you love what you do, you don't work a day in your life. I have been so blessed and fortunate that I've done something like what I'm doing with you right now. It makes me so happy. Not only do I get to talk for a living, but I get to do it with a good friend of mine. I absolutely love it. I could do it all day, every day. It's just, what a joy, what a pleasure. I've never had to work a 9 to 5. I don't have to get in the hustle and bustle of traffic. And so my life, I've been super blessed in that way. And I try to tell my son, in a perfect world, you would find a job that you love and you'd make $1 million a year and it's all good. It just doesn't work that way. Right. And again, there's outliers in every situation, but there are so many people that, for example, I know we were speaking about people that were retiring. My brother, who is 63, 64 years of age, retired about 3 years ago, worked at General Electric, rebuilding engine parts, airplane parts for the military, was laid off. And then a month before his 5 years came up, and if he had gone beyond 5 years, he would have started back at the bottom again. A month before, they brought him back, so he went right back to where he was. He finished out his thing, and he retired, and because he had put in 30 years of service. And I can remember, he's so happy right now. He's 64. He's retired. Doesn't have to work another day in his life. He's out in the woods all day, hunting, riding. He's got married. He's got 2 boys. He's got grandchildren. He could not be happier, right? But I do remember day in and day out and day in and day out and day in and day out how miserable he was in his 30s and 40s and 50s. I hate this job. I hate this work. I hate going to work. And I mean, I just, it was like, wow. And so, I look at him now and go, wow, it all turned out okay. Well, I'm not so sure. I'm not so sure that he would not want to do things a little differently. Can you talk just a little bit about, and I can only prove this by people that have been there and done that. But a lot of people, 75% of all people who win the lottery are either dead or become addicts. 75%, right? Because the money's coming in so fast, you're not used to having it. You're loaning it out quicker, and you know what to do with it. But everyone's like, well, it may be a miserable life, but at least give me the shot. Let me see what it feels like, right? Yeah. And I can tell you, I've got rich friends. I've got friends that are millionaires that never have to worry about stroking a check again. And they're not any happier than I am. They're not. Right. They're not even happy as the guy that I just left the Express Oil Change, who's been changing oil for 16 years, but gets to go see his boy play ball in the park on Saturday. So can you just talk a little bit about that and how you get that thought to an 18-year-old? Because right now, every 18-year-old thinks they're going to be getting out of college and they're going to be getting a job that starts at $135K a year. And it doesn't happen.
No. And it's good that doesn't happen, because think about this. If you are starting out in life, you really don't know what's going to make you. A 20-year-old has no idea what's going to make them happy, because we don't even stay the same person. Yes, we have some initial interest, but we grow as people and our interests grow. I have vastly different interests than I did when, 25, 30 years ago when I was in my 20s. So, we start off and we say, I think I'm interested in being an engineer. I'm interested in being this. And what you find is you get into it, and some people will shift careers. Some people will go, hey, I'm doing this. talking about your brother, let's take people like that. They get into it and they're like, this is a job for me. It's not that I find huge fulfillment, but I do it well. And look, I have to have a job. I have to support my family, and that's what I'm going to do. My life, though, may be with my children, fishing, hunting, my hobbies. That's what I really but I'm not going to be able to do that if I don't have this job that pays well, and then I can retire. So they never find fulfillment in their work, but they do it because it enables them to stop at some point and then go into retirement. Now, you take me on the other hand. I love coming to work. I do feel fulfilled by my job. So I don't want to retire, at least at 58. I'm sitting here thinking, even if I had the money to retire, I would not choose to retire because I get something out of coming here. Mm-hmm. I get something out of working with the people that I get to work with. I get something out of creating programs that enable people to eat and eliminate trauma and all those kind of things. So I think if you're blessed enough to eventually find it, doesn't mean you're going to find it when you're 20. You may not find it till you're 50. But if you get into where you enjoy what you do, then it's such a blessing. And we need to be so thankful for that, because that everybody's not in that situation. There are some people who have to go get the hard hat, who are on the side of the road, who are 55 years old and have to lay that hot pavement in Alabama in July, not because they're fulfilled in doing so, but it pays well, and they're working towards their retirement when they can spend their days fishing and hunting. I mean, it's just different situations. Mm-hmm. Now, I will tell you this, too. There are people that I know that are in blue-collar type stuff, but they love that, and they are fulfilled. They love tinkering with things. They love fixing things. You get an HVAC person who comes there and spends a couple of hours on your thing and finally troubleshoots it, figures it out. Now he's blowing cold air. You leave there incredibly fulfilled because you've just blessed this family and helped them, return to somewhat normal life. So it's really not about the job. It's about each individual pursuing where you get fulfillment, and just understanding if you're not there, you have options, but you may be in a well-paying job, and you just say, look, this is not who I am. This is what I'm going to do to provide for my family till this time. And then I'll be free, ideally, to go do those things. Where I am and what I'm doing, I love it, at least right now. So I'm preparing for retirement financially. But if I at this point, I would be surprised if I could ever because I'm like, I've got to do something. And what I'm doing now is the most fulfilling thing I know to do. And so I think I would be right back here or doing something very, very similar. So,
yeah, and I think that's where some college kids probably don't get it right either, because I didn't realize this. We had to tell people what we wanted to be like a freshman or sophomore in high school, and then we'd declare our major or minors. As now kids are going to school for 2 or 3 years before they even declare what they want to do. My son is in sports management, but he hasn't really declared his major or his minor yet. And because he's feeling his way out. And I think some people kind of get pigeonholed into spending $100,000 or $100,000 on their further education, and all of a sudden realizing they just spent 3 or 4 years doing things that they don't like, and that's what they're going to do for the rest of their life. And then they're like, have I just wasted 3 or 4 years, X $120,000 of my money, because now I got this thing on the outside that I really enjoy doing, but it doesn't pay half as much, blah, 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 blah. So, but I
don't look at it as, I get it, where you're like, but sometimes the only way to learn lessons, some lessons are just more expensive. And sometimes you have to spend 3 years doing something to realize, I hate this. Yeah. I'm not going to spend the rest of my life doing it. Mm-hmm. But think about this. If you didn't invest in that, if you didn't go down that pathway, you might be chasing this dream for 2 decades, thinking this is what you want to do. So every lesson comes with a cost, and sometimes they're a little bit more expensive, but I still see there's great value in that, where you're like, the only thing I've learned is I definitely don't want to do this.
Yep.
and then you move on to something else to find your ongoing fulfillment.
Info at TonyCurryRadio.net, info at TonyCurryRadio.net. For your emails, of course, this is a show called Mission Minded. We do it every single week. The show following this on TKR on our network of radio stations is Bite by Bite. You're going to be getting that. It's all about food insecurities and, of course, the Heart of Alabama Food Bank and Feeding America. So we'll give you that in just a few minutes. Thank you, brother. We'll talk next week.
Enjoyed it.
This has been a special presentation of Tony Curry Radio.